No D&D is better than bad D&D. Now, let me explain why. Okay, so a year and a half ago, I decided to get into Dungeons and Dragons. So I went ahead and I bought myself a player's handbook, as well as a collection of all the other books needed to start playing Dungeons and Dragons. That of which, if you're interested, is in the links below. The starter kit, or all the books you need to start the game. But regardless, I bought the starter books and I read through them and I was really excited to get a game going. So I went ahead and I started asking all of my friends who would be interested in starting a D&D campaign. And it just so happens that too many friends were interested. And that's a good thing, right? Too many people wanted in, and instead of making one big group, I decided to make two moderate-sized groups. So I had a group A and a group B is what I would call them from here on out. You know, two's better than one. I could run two D&D sessions through the same campaign. How hard can it be, right? I had big plans. I had big plans for this, for both these groups. I was gonna like alternate their meetings like every other week or twice every month or whatever would work out the best for him. And I wanted to push the stories together and maybe intertwine and have the guest players come in and out. I had big plans. I was excited. You know, it all came tumbling down on me. I'm getting carried away because it's just an exciting story that happened. But okay, so there's Group A. A Group A consists of 5 people and 1 experienced D&D player. And Group B, half of the people were slightly experienced Dungeons and Dragons players, and they invited their significant others to join as well. So those were the 2 groups that I was running. I'm gonna do another mic check here. Mic check. So those were my 2 groups, and I was really excited to start playing. I actually had an adventure planned for them. I was gonna run them through Princess of the Apocalypse. And, well, unfortunately, one of the groups only lasted 4 sessions, Group B. Group A lasted, or is still going, 24 sessions in, and they're almost done with this campaign, and I have much bigger, better, exciting plans for them after that. So, here's the interesting situation. What happened to make Group A continue on, and what happened to make Group B get discontinued? Find out what happened after this commercial break. I'm just kidding. All right, so here's the differences. When I started the first session, one of the main quest givers offered a quest for 50 gold. And Group A, instead of taking 50 gold as the reward for that quest, they decided to take 50 ales as payment. Yeah. The other Group B took gold, which is fine, which is what I thought was going to happen. You know, just take your gold and move on with your lives. But no, this is actually a really interesting foreshadowing that's happening, that's kind of showing me that Group A loves to mess around. They're silly and they're fun. Group B is a serious group, on the other hand. It's what I got from that one initial encounter. Now, that's not the only thing. I didn't discontinue their group because they wanted to play serious. No. It's because a lot of reasons. I'm getting into them. So another reason is Group A, they act as a team. They share their loot. They share their gold. They fight, of course. Roleplay-wise, their characters don't always have... they don't always agree, and that's okay, because when combat starts, they all get together, work as a team, heal each other, strategize. None of that happened in Group B. Group B, being a few friends and their significant others, surprisingly didn't have the synergy. It was more of a first come, first serve whenever it comes to looting bodies or dungeons for like magic items and stuff. And if the characters fought in the game or in real life, they would bring that into the combat scenarios, and they would not heal each other. And the loot greediness actually got so bad that people were looting mid-combat after they killed the guy. It let that greediness
is what ruined their party and got one of their players killed. And that was the very first time I ever killed a player character. It's an entirely different video. Link in the description if you would like to watch that video. But instantly, that was the second session when there was somebody died, second session, because there was no synergy. And right off the bat, I realized that I wasn't having fun with that session. Not just for those reasons, but if we take, for example, Group A that synergizes and shares their loot and works very well together. Group A, whenever I throw a wrench in their plans, like one of the things I like to do when I DM hardcore. I don't fudge dice. I make encounters a little harder than they're supposed to be. And my favorite is I add lingering injuries, which is a optional rule in the player's handbook. And lingering injuries is, the way I'm running it, is anytime you take a crit or you go down unconscious, you roll on the lingering injuries chart. Some of the things on the lingering injuries chart is pretty bad. It could be from losing an arm, leg, or an eye. And it just so happened that someone in that campaign Group A, they lost an arm. And instead of being sad about it, they said, all right, I can't wait to go back to town. I'm going to the magic shop, and I'm going to ask the magic guy to make me a chainsaw hand. That's amazing. That is fantastic. That is the coolest thing ever. I gave them, like, I did a bad to the party, and then they're just going to double it around and make their missing hand into something stronger than it ever was. That's awesome. They're a very glass half full, optimistic type of party, Group A. Group B, on the other hand, I had the player died after their party got all split up and greedy with loot, and that player didn't want to play anymore. And because he didn't want to play, some other players also didn't want to play. And mid-session, suddenly half the table was gone, and I'm still trying to finish up a game with half the party. I didn't even know if I wanted to keep going at that point. It was just so awkward to keep proceeding with it. And it took a lot of convincing to that player who died to come back to the table. And when he came back to the table, the party didn't click. I thought, oh, somebody died, they're going to come back, they're going to like each other, and they're going to understand their differences and what went wrong. Oh, man, it was worse. I talked to everyone about it, too, about working together and all these things, but it didn't work. What ended up happening is he made a character who was kind of shy and didn't want to say anything, except one thing. He would mutter to himself, the prophecy is coming true. Because he had like the urchin background or something, and he had a hint of something that's happening in the future. But none of the party liked this, and this guy was still stealing loot and not sharing it. So imagine having some guy come into your party, always muttering, it's the prophecy, never talking to you, and taking all your loot. I wouldn't want to heal them in combat. So if they died, they die, you know. So I understand the group's understanding, but it's still messed up. And like the group never got its synergy again. And the healing aspect and the teamwork wasn't there in that party. And still, there was a player who lost a leg. It was an Aarakocra who lost a leg. Didn't matter. Aarakocra could still fly. It's no big deal. But as soon as that player lost their leg, they said, I'm done. I don't want to play the game anymore. My character is ruined. The concept, I wanted them to have their leg or whatever. And apparently it was a really big deal for them. I didn't see why, but they lost the leg and they didn't want to play, which meant half the table didn't want to play as well. So here's the situation where I'm at as the Dungeon Master. Any challenge that I give to Group A, oh, they love it. They eat it up and they work together hard. Group B, any challenge I throw at Group B, they kind of complain about it and say they don't want to play or deal with the challenges I throw at them. So that's another reason why I'm not having fun with Group B and Group A. Those aren't the only reasons why. So Group B had some other issues. That Group A, I never actually even had to bring up. But I brought this up with Group B multiple times, and didn't get better. But some of the things that we were going through was players were rolling dice off the table like crazy. I made a house rule where if you roll off the table, it's a 1. Didn't help. People are still rolling off the table in Group B, which slows down the pace of the game. Then we have players who are on their phones or like scrolling through Facebook or Instagram with the volume up too. That's very distracting when I'm doing a monologue or setting a scene and somebody's scrolling through Facebook or texting someone. It's very distracting. And they also had a lot of outside of game talk at the table during the game, which was another big no-no for me because that throws me out of the sync because I get into the flow when I'm dungeon mastering. And as soon as somebody's not paying attention, I'm going to wait for them to finish so I can repeat myself so they understand so I don't have to repeat myself later. It was bad. I talked to them about this and it didn't get better. So that was another reason why I didn't want to play that session, Group B. I wasn't looking forward to him. Group A, they would show up on time, they would show up early, and they would bring food. Group B, I had players cancel last minute, show up without food, sometimes without food. Well, food's cool. If you're not DMing, bring food, and your DM will be very happy. That's a lot of hard work to DM. But they would show up late or not even show up at all, and I could tell that some of the players didn't feel engaged enough with the game. It didn't feel like they were having fun or they didn't want to play. Like they were there because they're tag-alongs. And that's just another reason for me as a DM to not really want to DM for them. So I took the passive route. After the 4th session, I just kept telling them that I need more time for the next session, or I'm busy with the other group. And it took a good 6 months for me to finally actually build up the courage to tell the group and to break it easier for them because I know some of them really wanted to play. And I said, hey, I'm not having fun DMing your sessions. I'm going to stop DMing them. I'm just going to discontinue it. And it sucked. And some of the players didn't like hearing that. And I hated saying that, but it had to be done because I wasn't having fun DMing those sessions. I wasn't looking forward to DMing those sessions. And so this is where the whole idea comes in of no D&D is better than bad D&D. Because I'd rather spend my time doing a different activity than playing a game I don't like. And I'm making this video because I want to share it with any other dungeon master or player who's going through a very similar issue or an experience is they're not having fun at their table. Of course, talk about it. Figure out what the issue and definitely bring it up on the table. Like that's something I did multiple times with Group B. I had one-on-one phone calls trying to figure out how to solve the issue, but it didn't happen. And if you can't solve your issue, then don't play. Or at least don't play with that group and experiment. Go to different groups, find different people to play with. Because from that failure of realizing that's not where you want to be, you kind of build an understanding of what kind of dungeon master or player you are and the types of games you prefer to play. I know as a dungeon master, I like to play challenging games that are heavy on the role play. I really care about character development and I care for the creativity aspects. And that I wasn't getting any of that with Group B, and I discontinued it. And because I discontinued it, 2 players from that group started off their own D&D groups, and I am a part of each of those, and those campaigns are growing into something absolutely beautiful, all because I went ahead and I canceled the session that I wasn't having fun with. And it's good because I was able to put more time into the one session that actually did matter, who are like 24 sessions into nearly completing this book, which I'm so excited. I'm going to do a review on this too, on how I ran it, because this book's an absolute jumbled mess. But this was my story, and if it connects with anybody, or I've hopefully give you a spark of imagination or creativity or inspiration to inspiration, because I'm bards are the best class ever. Inspiration to fix your issue if you're also dealing with one, or hopefully give you some insight and just some food for thought to think when you're playing in your next D&D game, or if you're ever interested in trying them, which, again, if you are, links down below for the starter stuff, everything you need. And with that being said, just remember, no D&D is better than bad D&D. Have a wonderful day. I mean, if you think about it logically, no D&D is better than bad D&D. It's like, don't force yourself to have fun when you're not having fun, right? Yeah.